If you like my works and you are struggling to make realistic pen drawing like me, or you just want to learn pen drawing, stick to the end of this video. I'll tell you secrets on how to make realistic drawing like this. The first thing you should know is the paper type. The paper you use can actually affect the look of your drawing. If you use a rough paper, your drawing is going to look more realistic than if you use a smooth paper. I recommend you use Strathmore paper or watercolor paper, something like that. Me, I use some kind of paper. I don't even know the name of this paper actually, but since I know the secret that my paper have to be rough surface paper, so I use any paper I can get. You can't use printing paper to make realistic pen drawing. You only use printing paper to make something like illustrations or just some architectural work. But to make realistic drawing with pen, you can't use printing paper. Let me demonstrate why. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to this channel if you like watching videos like this. If you like my content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell for my next video. Okay, notice how this shading has so much gap in between, and I didn't do that, it just happened, so it's not good. But see what happens when I use a rough paper. See how the shading starts blending. Okay, another thing you need to know is grid lines. Grid lines is just some vertical and horizontal lines you draw before making your actual sketch. Artists use this a lot. It will help you get the perfect proportion, like to help you frame your reference picture on your paper correctly. I use it a lot.
Oh my gosh, it's Kevin Dre's production.
Artists use letters to name their lines, but I prefer using numbers because I always draw large portraits, so I like working with big papers. If you want to know how to make these grids correctly, you can comment below. I'll maybe find time to make a video about it. Okay, another thing is the shading technique. All artists have their own basic, unique style of shading and the way they make their artworks. Like if you know me, you know I use scribbling shading. I use scribbling shading a lot, and afterwards I'll use cross hatching to blend my works. So that's how I shade. And to make scribbling shading, you have to know some other few things. There are other few things you have to know to be able to make scribbling shading look realistic. So if you are following my tutorials, you might have known the best way to shade scribbling and everything you need to know about scribbling shading. So shading technique have to be what you should know and try to get a grip of before making drawings.
Oh my gosh, it's Kevin Dre's production.
Please watch till the end of this video. The last secret is going to really help you, and leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And another thing is layering. Layering shading will make your pen drawing look realistic regardless. So always try to make shading with layers. It's a pro tip. I use it a lot, and I made a tutorial on how to shade with layers. Link to that video will be in description. You can add as much layers as you want, depending on how dark or light the skin or the kind of texture you are drawing will determine how many layers you have to make. And another key is patience. I know you think this one is kind of obvious, but seriously, it's the key to pen realism. There is no good pen drawing without patience. Patience is one of the key you have to use to get a realistic artwork with pen. When I look at most of my students' drawing, I notice there's no form of patience in your drawings. So that's why your artwork will look rough and untidy, something like that. So you need to have patience. You need to, make the art bit by bit, every day, so that your work will come out clean and a little bit perfect. Another thing is contrast. Contrasts have huge role when making realistic pen drawing. If you take a look at this drawing, you see how contrasty and how the shadows, like on the other side, this left hand side, you see how the shadows is so dark at that side than this side. So that is what I meant. That's what I mean about contrast. So contrast has been what I've always been using for my realistic works. I use it to make my work look realistic. So it's something you should consider also. Okay, this next one is kind of personal to me. It's my personal secret. It's called soft highlights. It's not just highlights, soft highlights. I normally like making my highlights soft, like the center will be a bit brighter, then the borders will be soft, kind of like the highlights will fade out, something like that. That's how I make my own highlights. And this one is particularly for when making face drawing. If you want to make your face or any part at all to make it look realistic, if you want to make your highlights, you have to make the highlights soft. Don't just make it crisp, like those hard highlights will not make your work look realistic. So that is another tip.
Oh my gosh, it's Kevin Dre's production.
And there is faded borders. Some of you ask me, why is my drawing like this, why is my shading like this? It's because you don't know you have to make your borders, the borders of your drawing, faded. Like, you have to be faded, like both the lines and the shading need to be faded. So when you know this, you know your shading have to be, you blend it so that the shading will spread out, will not just stop at a certain point, and then the whole thing will just look anyhow. So you have to know that you have to fade your borders. Like, let's take an example. Like, just look at this drawing, see how I fade the outline, like those spaces that is in between the outside and the inside. So you have to fade it so that everything will just blend well. So it's a pro tip. You need to have this in mind so that your drawing will look realistic. And another common mistake I see you guys make is your shading strokes. Your shading strokes have to be smaller, like tiny, very, very tiny. So that's why I made mention of patience. You have to be patient when making pen drawing. So, and making tiny strokes with pen, it's kind of a bit frustrating, but that is what you have to do to make your work look realistic. A guy from Russia sent me his work, said he don't know the reason why his work is still coming out not that good. So I told him that his mistake, like what I saw in his work, is his strokes are too large. So I told him he have to reduce the size of his strokes, and later on he sent me back his work, and it really was nice at that time. So also the one from Australia I talked to on Instagram, the same problem with that guy also. So your shading strokes need to be tiny, smaller. Like, don't just give your artwork large strokes. So that will really help your work to look realistic. Just have time to do everything accordingly so that your work will look realistic. So tiny stroke will also help your work to be realistic. Okay, if you are still watching the video, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel if you like tips like this, and comment pen drawing or pen tutorial. This last secret is something I really wish I knew when I started pen drawing. So I never knew this will actually, up the realism of my pen drawing when I started. So I learned it from somewhere actually. The secret is called eye darkening. In every picture, there is no way an eye will just be perfectly white like that, and so is your drawing. So you should do in your drawing, your eye need to be like, there need to be like a bit shading in the eyes to make it look a bit dark. That will really help your drawing to look realistic. It have really helped me a lot in all of my drawings. I recommend you start shading some darkens in the eyes of your portraits, especially when making face drawing, because I know so many of you like making human faces. So this tip will really help you to achieve realism. Thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to leave a like on this video so that YouTube will make it go reach wider audience. So, and share this video to your friends. So I believe with all these tips you will be able to make something a bit, even if it's not too perfect, but a bit realistic for the start. Alright guys, thanks for watching again.